Okay, this is the home page of my website, but before I go any further, I want to mention a couple of things. First, this is just a demonstration website. You're welcome to come to it, register yourself as a user, and play around with it if you like. But some of the functions I'll be showing you are some of the more basic functions. There will be some questions on the survey that I won't be able to show you here. Some questions about functions that I won't be able to show you here because they're more time intensive to program and so forth. But I think by the time you review the first video and the second video, you'll have a good enough idea of what this website can do to be able to answer those questions about those particular functions. This is a demonstration website, and so while the workflow and the functions and the user interface will be very similar to the final product, I'm sure it'll be totally different in that it'll have a lot more things added to it, and it'll hopefully be more user-friendly. So this is really targeting two groups of people. The first are supervisors, and the second are the individual practitioner. Supervisors, of course, if we've all had them, they sometimes, being able to find the time to look at your files in a timely manner, it can be kind of tough. So the idea is that because this is web-based, they could go home and maybe plop in front of the TV with their laptop and go ahead and log themselves in and begin to look at their practicum students' files and get an idea of what to discuss in supervision the next day, perhaps. So I've logged myself in as a supervisor. If you register yourself as such, then this is what you would first come to. Of course, you need some practicum students in order to shoot them an email. When they receive this email, it instructs them to come and register themselves underneath your name, the supervisor's name. Once they've done this, their name will appear on this table here. John is a current practicum student, and he's leaving, but Brian is coming in, so Brian needs BCA, which is John's old patient. Brian now has John's old patient, and the supervisor wants to look and see how many times BCA has been met with. We see he's been met twice, and he's kind of curious of what was going on. So he looks at the initial appointment summary, which is basically a psychosocial. This is a template used in an integrated care setting, so it's different than what probably a lot of you are familiar with. But anyway, so he can read through this real quickly, come down here to the first progress note, which is, for us is a follow-up summary, and say, okay, so that's what's going on. If he wants to go ahead and assign all of John's members to someone, he can use this right here, or for whatever reason he just wants to say delete Brian or delete John. Since he was an old practicum student, he can do that instead of muddying up the waters with old and new practicum students. Some limited functions on this: basic file management. Of course, it can always be added to as great ideas are shared with me. But what I really want to share with you, and I think is probably something will be more beneficial to the individual practitioner, are these functions. What you would do is you'd come and register yourself as an individual member, or that might say something like clinician or something like that. You log yourself in, and I guess I've used BCA again. He's being seen when we're the one person. Let's say that in this case BCA has been met with 3 times, and there was the psychosocial in the first appointment and the follow-up summaries. Whenever you have a 4th follow-up summary, it's been met 4 times now, you'd fill in all this information, but really each time he's been met you would fill in this information too, and a lot of these variables would stay the same, but as you track these variables with each visit, you'll be able to go back and run data on this, and perhaps for something like, say, something we use at the kitchen clinic is PHQ-9 scores. If you tracked it every single time, then you'd be able to get an idea of their functioning over time. The BDI you could also administer. Ideally, all these different screeners will be hyperlinked to where you can pull up a free version of it and print it off and administer it, or even better yet, be able to fill it out online, and once it's filled out, it'll automatically populate this score along with the date, and you'll be able to track that. So let's go ahead and submit that. BCA has now been met with 4 times, as we can see here. Similar to like under the supervisor function, you could view all notes at one time. I showed you those notes, those variables that could be tracked. Let's do that. Let's say that we want to track data on BCA, so I hit track. And let's say I want to go down to PHQ-9 scores. Track that, go down here, hit track. Now nothing's going to show up because I haven't actually inputted any scores into those graphs. But if I did, I would ideally have, say, a bar graph here with 4 different bars, and ideally his PHQ-9 score would be higher when he first came in than his most recent session, because that would indicate that his functioning is improving. It's basically a frequency table, not that big a deal. If you wanted to run more complicated statistical analysis, then you would be able to export into a CSV file all those variables, input it into a statistical software, and run a regression analysis or a correlational analysis or whatever you wanted to do. That would inform you about how your treatment is going. That would give you an idea of where to go. That would provide a lot of valuable information to you. And that concept hasn't been fully fleshed out, but I'm in the process of that and talking to some people about how best to do that. The second to last thing I want to show you is, let's say BCA has been met for a couple of times and he no longer wants to come back. So we don't want to muddy BCA up with this particular therapist's multiple clients. So we'll go ahead and track him over to inactive. So now he's over here in this special little area of inactive patients, but then he says, you know what, I want to be seen again because my therapist was so awesome. So we can push him back over here to the active patient listing. That's just something I thought would be really nice, because as we all know that sometimes we mix our active with inactive patients and we have to kind of sort through it all. The final thing, and this is where the second video will pick up, is when you write report, you'll go to another page and it'll be a report writing application that will utilize, if you're capable of, if you're set up to use speech recognition, be able to write your report using speech recognition software, as well as pull down menus that would automatically populate a word processor document. And this is more easily explained when you go into the second video. So let's pick up there from where we're leaving off here, and that is the report writing. If you have any questions, give me a call or email me, and I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks.